for a material that holds the universe together. And all of a sudden, that whole philosophy of that we're all one and we're all connected, science has proven that it's true. And when you look at the galactic center, that in the middle of our galaxy or in the middle of our solar system, in the middle of this galaxy, as it sits in the center of the solar system, and the offshoots of that energy that's affecting solar flares, the photon belt, more energy, more light, we're expected to have the largest solar flare activity in the world history to peak in 2011. Now, when you start thinking of that kind of magnetic flux and that kind of movement, planetary alignment comes into play, then it is on us. But in practical belief, we're either going to be in world war or we're going to be at peace. We have the opportunity to seize what will only come every 26,000 years. What are we going to do with it? So here's what I ask. Look at the Mayan and the Olmecs. Look at the Aztecs, because it's easy to go there. Second, believe this panel. If you can't go there or life blocks you, believe this panel. Third, make choices about who you are if you had the opportunity to dawn an age. That if you were standing alone and by yourself, and you could create a new world because you happened to be at the right place at the right time. You know, in the Marine Corps, we always called a hero a fool at the wrong place at the wrong time. But if you were and had the opportunity and you were by yourself and you could rig your sails and you could batten down the hatches and you could catch the cosmic wind, where would you sail your vessel to? What would you look forward to? And what if you had to take your children and 2 of your friends on the way to where you were going? Where would that be? I ask everybody to take a trip there. It's easy and it's inexpensive, and you can walk it and see it. And then truly get ready for 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. For I guarantee you, whether anyone believes it or not, we will dawn this age. And I am so proud to see a room completely filled with people that are not fear-based. A dead person, like I have been, never sees the end of anything without seeing the beginning of something else. There is no end. There is only a new beginning. And we are poised in a new beginning. So it's how we open that door. And I thank you so much, number one, for being here today and coming to support Conscious Life. And I thank you for filling this room up with people searching for answers to succeed, not to be afraid. I happen to have seen the future. We'll win. We'll please. But if we're not careful, we're going to let a lot of stuff who's just trying to hold on. The old is trying to hold on and keep us under a grip so we don't pay attention to what's really happening spiritually. If we're grounded in war, if we're grounded in fear, we're grounded in terrorism, we will get so dense and so unfocused we'll never catch the cosmic wind. Please do not let that happen to you. Danyan.com. Thank you.
Bravo. Yay.
We've had 2 speakers who have told us from a spiritual point of view their perspective, and we're now also going to have an opportunity to hear from a technological point of view the perspective of someone that I respect very much, and a person who has been on this panel before. He is the director.
Sex God.
Thanks, Daniel.
Just trying to help you along, Betty.
I know, you're very helpful, Daddy, and I really appreciate your help. He's the...
Mom's getting pretty soon, Daniel.
Ooh, honey.
He's the executive director of the Lay Foundation of Technologies and the author of several books, and has two wonderful websites on the Earth Pulse. He has also created a new CD, which I hope you'll talk to us about, and is doing a post-conference institute on Monday. Would you give a big, warm welcome to Dr. Nick Begich?
I asked Betty, I said, I'm not a Mayan expert for sure, and there's a lot of things that I could lecture on and talk about, and this is the second year she's asked me to be on this panel and maybe just present a little bit different perspective. And actually, my interest in science goes back to my study of crystallography and gemology through the Gemological Institute.
Speak into the microphone.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
In any case, going back to as a young child, I was very interested in geology and crystallography, and I studied gemology through the Gemological Institute, and at 14 had the privilege of traveling with the Institute to Latin America and a visit to Peru, and an opportunity to see what was actually structured there, and hearing the same story about how all of this stuff got built just didn't make any sense when you really look at the material that was supposedly chopped away by other stones of equal strength. It just doesn't make sense. Everything you see down there is just incredible. When you get out on the ground, the amount of material, the amount of structure is just totally mind-boggling. Well, that, for me, when I came back and I started thinking about all of that and looking at sort of where all of this technology has gone that apparently has been lost, for me, science was always about looking in at ourselves, recognizing what we were, and then from that, sort of analyzing the world. And I think that's all of us. We're sitting up here, you're sitting down there, but we're all really sitting in exactly the same place as human beings. And I think I really believe that we are truly the outward expression of whatever creation is. And science is now telling us that, within each of us is a hologram of the entire universe, which I think is a pretty amazing kind of concept. The idea that within us is incredible potentials that we just have to awaken. And that's what I think is happening right now. As I've traveled in the last 12 years, lecturing primarily on technology, there has been a phenomenal speed rate pickup on the way technology is advancing. If you go back to the mid-'80s, technology was doubling about every 5 years. This is from the invention of the wheel to where we are at the moment. Every 5 years by the mid-'80s. Today, it's about every 9 months. Now, that's a pretty phenomenal rate, and that rate is about to accelerate at an incredible rate based upon new breakthroughs in science. There's going to be some new stories coming out on quantum computing as an example. Quantum computers, to put this in perspective, what a modern computer can do, the supercomputers today, and I'll give you an example. The biggest computer in the world last summer was tested, and it had a speed of 280.6 teraflops. Now, what does that mean? That's the equivalent of 6.6 billion people on the planet with hand calculators running a calculation every 5 seconds for 60 hours to do what that computer can do in 1 second. Now, quantum computers will do what a modern computer at that scale can do in an hour, what would otherwise take 1 trillion years. So when we make this jump, and you're going to start reading stories about quantum computers in the next several weeks, because there's some things going on here in California that are going to make the mainstream media. One of the big concerns about quantum computers was the observer effects, the computing. And so they have figured out a way to create fields that separate that so that quantum computing might actually take place within this next 4 or 5 years on a grand scale. That's the equivalent of looking at a supercomputer today like you would look at an abacus. I mean, that's the kind of change that potentially is there. And then when you see the acceleration of technology, it won't be doubling every 9 months. It'll be doubling every few days.
Oh, God.
Now, the impact of assessing that really has a lot to do with our ability to think and function at a much, much higher level than we do today. And when you look at supercomputers, there's 3 of them being clustered together